Welcome to Not Sure This Matters with Mark Fish Suits. What are you laughing at?
Me?
Yeah.
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday.
Fun day.
Sunday fun day. Hit this button.
This button.
Mike, how you feeling, bro?
I feel pretty good, man.
Mike's been under the weather, traveling for work, I think, right?
Yeah, was out in Vegas and it's a pretty big time of year for conferences.
Okay.
So all of Vegas is sick.
Okay, gross.
At least 50-60% of
Yeah,
Vegas.
most of those are venereal diseases, I think.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to think about a perfect spot to spread disease, it's recirculating air
Coming
in a
from
closed
cold weather.
container with a surrounding area that's like not going to shield you from anything.
Gross.
It is kind of gross.
We are not Vegas ambassadors, it doesn't sound like. It's basically a petri dish for illness.
Pretty much.
I had an unsolicited suggestion, and I could say unsolicited considering the source, but they suggested that we talk more about women on the pod.
Mm-hmm.
In what way?
Like specifically women's nutrition, women's health, stuff like that. I think we do a pretty good job making it all inclusive. But I think the shout out to our listeners, or actually we should ask if they have specific questions that they want to be answered by you guys. Like, go ahead and shoot Marcus a text on the DM. DMing is Instagram.
Yeah, DM on Instagram or the email.
Or the email.
And
not
truly,
sure this matters at gmail.com.
Yeah,
Honestly,
you
the
can break
Instagram's
through the
probably
traffic.
better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and user
It's consolidated
engagement.
in one spot.
User engagement's a big deal, right? Because
Yeah.
like the whole goal of this is to provide some sort of educational based presentation of the data, right? Where like we can kind of make things digestible.
Yeah,
You know,
accessible.
I have a quick question for you guys. What percentage of women do you think makes up RTS?
Oof, 70.
Well, I know, so I'm not guessing.
Do you know?
50%, right?
Yeah, it's 50%.
Okay.
Like a lot of people, myself included, thought we were male dominant for years,
Yeah.
like overwhelmingly. And then we started doing a demographics analysis and we found out that 50%. So I think we're well equipped to handle women's questions or be a little bit more specific with women issues.
Definitely. My viewpoint is skewed because my hour when I go in there is there's only like 2 guys and the rest is all women. So I would have.
Oh, yeah, you go like
I go 7:15.
second shift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So all the dudes are already gone. Dudes plus Tommy and Pete. Andrew, one of the guys at the gym, asked me to spot him yesterday, and
Andrew.
yeah, the guy that works for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
An employee.
Yeah, an employee.
All right.
But he was working out, so it was like he wasn't on payroll.
Yeah.
I haven't felt that awkward in a long time because I didn't know.
How were you spotting him?
I was standing behind him with my nuts out. No, I mean, like, I didn't know.
What
I
was he
like,
doing?
Let's go. He was doing a
Squat?
incline bench press.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so, like, was I supposed to be like, "Let's go, buddy, you got this," or do I keep my mouth shut? Like,
Well, you know what's interesting?
There's no
So
wrong way.
a flat bench is a pretty straightforward spot. Like that's kind of the international, like, can I spot you? Bench press.
sure.
But like an incline bench with a
Dumbbells.
bar is one thing, but with dumbbells is like actually not an easy spot to do if you don't know what you're doing. It's like either elbow support or wrist support.
You really, so any dumbbells, you should actually be spotting the dumbbell.
Oh, the
because
weight.
The dumbbell
So
itself,
under the wrist.
like where the bell is.
Ah.
Where the bell is.
Interesting.
Because what worst case scenario isn't that they miss it, it's
Yeah.
that it comes down on their face.
Right.
So you always want to be on the inside to push it away.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I was ill.
So this makes sense. So two things, then I was wrong because like I was always thought you like push up on the elbows,
That's
which
what
is
I
bad because that'll just
Old school.
all right, or grab the wrist, which actually still is a pain in the ass.
Ideally, you're actually pushing it
Yeah.
away from bodily harm.
Just get it away.
Because, like, let's say they hurt their wrist, but they save not landing on their rib
Yeah,
cage
or their
chest,
face.
their face. Well, that's where it would go.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if they're coming in.
Yeah.
So,
All
yeah,
right.
you want to push the dumbbells away from bodily harm.
Now
Man, I
this
hope
is
we got that action on camera.
And this is why he's the fucking-
a lot of this. A lot of this. What's the exercise you do when you're laying on your back with the
This? This?
the rope? Yeah. It's hard to make fun of Mike because he's clearly in good shape, but when you're laying on your back, just grabbing a hold of those.
No,
things.
I'm standing up doing
Yeah.
this.
Marcus, edit that out, please. A few housekeeping items from last week.
yeah.
A couple comments got thrown out there that when I was listening to the pod for the fact checks, I wanted to touch on them quickly. One of them was we were talking. I don't know why we were talking about kinks and fetishes, but we were. And Doc goes on a tirade about like, oh well, if the person doesn't want to let you sniff their feet, then you might be with the wrong person. Now I'm sure there's some humor in there, and it was great, but I was thinking about it, and I like forget about the sex part, but like if you're in a relationship with somebody, is there like a line where like do you have a responsibility to do something for your partner that you may not want to do? Like if your partner wants you to like cut your hair, do you cut your hair?
I don't.
If your partner wants you to lose weight,
so I think there's it's a little gray zone and it's a little personality.
We were talking
driven.
about sniffing feet, right? And you're like, hey, fuck it. If you want to go home and sniff your wife's feet, she should take her shoes off every time you walk in the door. All right, well, maybe there's some truth there, but there's like I can see like some contention between like, well, I don't want to change and you don't want to change, and I want you to cut your hair. Well, I don't want to cut my hair, but we're a partnership and we're supposed to give in a little bit. And like, where do you draw that line?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's in the initial phases of who you choose, right? Because right off the bat, you should get to the point where that then might not be an issue, right?
So Jenny and I started having the conversation. I listened to the podcast. I'm sitting there, we're just whatever, watching TV, I'm doing whatever we're doing, and I'm like, oh, Marco said this really interesting thing. It's like, well, if I wanted to sniff your feet and you didn't want me to sniff your feet, like, is that a problem? She's like, well, I didn't know you wanted to sniff my feet. I didn't really want to sniff her feet, but she's like, wow, you've changed a lot because when we met, I didn't think you wanted to sniff my feet, and now all of a sudden you want to sniff my feet. But people do change, right? The person that you marry or that you become friends with or whatever, like it evolves over time.
Correct. And the biggest thing is just to have the discussion.
Yeah.
To see where you're at, because as you evolve, as you change, like your priorities start to diverge maybe, or what your interests are. So at least having the conversation so that you don't have a 27-degree deviation over 5 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? From like what, and then you can come to some kind of reasonable, what do we do now?
Do you guys ever run into problems when people are starting to change their life, let's call it for the better, where their nutrition and their health routine and their exercise routine changes and it causes problems or waves at home?
Big time. It's one of my first questions in an evaluation is like, okay, what are some of your constraints? Like I usually go goals first because everyone is excited about that.
Yeah.
And then the most reasonable next step is like, all right, what's going to keep you from doing that? And then if they don't admit to it, I ask about like their significant other or spouse being a limiting factor, because either we have to get them on board or we maybe get them into the gym as well, because a partnership in fitness actually does really a lot better.
I was going to ask that. Yeah,
it does a lot, and we do have a lot of spouses at the gym.
Yeah, one of them.
Or their spouse is already at a gym, like totally. They don't have to be here, but they have to be on the same bus.
The biggest part for us and the biggest benefit now that Jenny and I are both at the gym is the nutrition piece of it, because the shopping list is a lot more aligned. It makes it easier to cook meals and keep the right snacks in the house, or lack thereof, without sort of like pissing each other off by like, why aren't we having McDonald's tonight, or where's the fucking ice cream? Like we have the same sort of goals. So I can
now
see
the
that
interesting thing is, so you bump into that with health and fitness. In the medical world, it's like these ideologies of medicine that are so ingrained that I'm fighting with every day, from spouses and then their own doctors. Like the Women's Health Initiative is a big hot topic always. And in 2002, this data came out that estrogen causes cancer. Now they're retracting that data, and a lot of doctors are walking it back. I think it's the biggest form of malpractice in the world that's not going to go prosecuted, because you had a bunch of women's health advocates be like, estrogen causes cancer. And then all of a sudden, 20 million women got fucked for coming off their estrogen feeling like shit. And now we're trying to regain their trust from a set of false data. Fighting that is really difficult, right? So like in the medical world.
Public perception.
Yeah. But in the medical world, back to the original point, like if I have both like the spouses and the entire couple or whatever relationship they're in on board, the experience is like 50 times better, especially with libido stuff in older age. Like if you get a man and a woman at the same time with an increased libido, increased sex drive, and that interaction is better, all parts of their life essentially get better.
But where did the estrogen thing come from, though? It's not like they just made it up. Like somebody would wake up one morning and be like, you know what? I'm going to tell people that estrogen causes cancer.
Yeah, it was
study.
So I think breast surgery started to become a really big deal.
Breast augmentation or mastectomies as part of a cancer treatment.
Cancer.
Okay.
Right. So in order to justify to the women of the world and try to somewhat offset the amount of surgery needing to be done, we had to find a culprit. So the easiest culprit is the single ingredient that's in every female.
Yeah.
Estrogen. So if we can blame estrogen, we can justify our interventions, and then we could potentially alter the course of care or however make it more tolerable. So what they did is they ran a study, but they ran it poorly because they didn't use bioidentical estrogen, and they really didn't identify variables that are then going to kind of weed out who is really getting cancer from potentially hormone intervention or not. And after you go through the data, they essentially came out and said estrogen causes cancer, but it was synthetics and it was estrogen forms that had to be metabolized. And recently they've completely retracted all the data. They just didn't make it as public as they made the initial study.
Stupid question. Do you gain or lose estrogen as you get older? Is it like hormone? Is it like testosterone for men?
So women go through, their estrogen cycles go up and down as they have their periods.
Yeah.
And then by older age, menopause shuts down essentially to zero.
What does estrogen do for a woman other than, this is
a lot
of a tape, but like if estrogen, like menopause at the end of the day, like you can't have a baby after that, right? But what else does it actually do to you?
Bone health, muscle health, fat metabolism, carbohydrate metabolism, mental health,
inflammatory markers,
inflammatory changes, joint disease, joint pain.
So is it the female equivalent to testosterone?
Well, women have testosterone too.
But men have estrogen as well.
It's a kind of its own bucket.
Okay.
It's like there's no true equivalent because testosterone works differently in men and women, and then estrogen works differently in men and women.
Do you look at it the same way, like free testosterone, free estrogen? Is it the same?
No, there's a family of estrogens, and then E2 estradiol is kind of the single one that really does the most of what we know scientifically. And I'll leave it at that. Like we just might not know what the others do yet, but we can control this one. So that one specifically gets singled out. But menopause women, they just lose their hormones. Zero. It goes to zero. I just had a discussion with somebody who's got severe osteopenia, refuses to see me because she doesn't technically believe in like this style of medicine yet.
Sure.
Her PCP doesn't really coach her through that. So she's going to go see an endocrinologist who's going to start her on what they call bisphosphonates. I know how this is going to go, and her bones will be just as brittle, just look different on an x-ray and break. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, like estrogen and hormone replacement in her would fix that problem. So it's this whole estrogen does a lot. And the difference between an 18-year-old and a 75-year-old woman is a huge difference metabolically as well. And I don't think we even know a little bit, 5% of what it truly does. We just know enough now to know it's important.
I feel like that could be on our female pod. That topic made sense.
Yeah. Chime in, ladies.
The other thing is, you guys said you put ketchup on your eggs?
I will.
What?
Yeah.
What? Doc?
Another thing is it ketchup or ketchup?
Catsup. I think ketchup with the K is trademarked.
Ketchup?
Yeah.
Or ketchup?
Ketchup. KETCHUP. I thought
It
it was
actually,
a Heinz
to
thing.
me, doesn't make sense not to put ketchup on an egg.
I'm more a hot sauce guy, but I would put ketchup and hot sauce.
I love ketchup.
Do you put ketchup in the refrigerator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do I.
You have to.
I don't think you do.
No, you don't.
Think about going to a diner. It just sits on the fucking table, and it's so much better when it's room
Because there's so much
temperature.
vinegar in it. I think it's just
so much better. And like the packets you get at the fast food joint,
Oh, yeah.
those aren't
You're right.
refrigerated. But they also anyway, we digress.
Yeah. Ketchup or ketchup?
So we got the T-shirts now. So if people want a T-shirt, send Marcus a DM through Instagram. That's the best way to do it, right?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
And then Marco,
Keep it on the gram.
Marco will drive them to your house. Like we decided that pre-pod.
It's like Easter.
It's like Easter for everybody. Happy Easter, guys.
sleigh.
Got you a T-shirt.
We have an Easter sleigh.
And then I have I think we should do a poll on Instagram. Marcus, find out if grunting at the gym is a turn on or a turn off, would you? Oh, we got to get him a microphone. He said yes, folks.
He's chiming in.
He's excited. Put your shirt back on. All right, so fact checks. Ready?
Fact check.
There's a few sex ones on here, so if kids are listening, I think earmuffs would be appropriate. New York Times. To have the New York Times delivered every day is $10 a week. Just on Sundays, $5 a week. Fetish statistics. About 30% of men and 11% of women reported fetishistic arousal, which is arousal to feet, fabric, and other inanimate objects. The obsession of feet likely stems from the foot's connection to the leg and the leg's connection to the genitals.
I never would think about it that way.
How about that?
Sure.
Fetish versus kink. A kink is a sexual behavior or practice that falls outside of a standard sexual practice. A fetish refers to a specific object or behavior that must be present in order for sexual or arousal or enjoyment. So I had that backwards.
Confused.
If it's a fetish, you can't do it without it. Kink is just like, let's add this in.
Pet it.
It's not Pete.
Yeah.
So Pete is a fetish.
Yep.
Big fetish guy.
If you think about it.
Furries, male versus female.
Oh,
Want to guess? What percentage of furries reportedly are male?
less 30%.
I want to say more because
Do it.
I would say 65%.
75% reportedly are male, 25% other.
Oh wow.
A condiment. A condiment is a sauce or other preparation that is added to food to enhance its flavor or appearance.
Okay. All right.
So it's super broad.
Yeah.
They had lettuce on there. You asked about lettuce.
Yeah,
They had
yeah.
it as a condiment, syrup, everything we talked about could technically be a condiment. So I don't think that's a fair representation when we were talking calories, because I was sort of the same thing you were.
Yeah, right.
Salt, pepper, mayonnaise, ketchup,
isn't it?
catsup, mustard, right.
Yeah.
At this point, what's not a
A
condiment?
bun.
Make condiments great again.
Yes.
Next t-shirt.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Working on it.
Fermentation. Fermentation is a process where microorganisms like bacteria and yeast break down sugars / carbohydrates into other substances such as alcohol or organic acids in the absence of oxygen, often producing characteristic taste and texture in food products like yogurt, cheese, wine, and bread. Essentially, it's a chemical transformation of a food by microbes that occurs without air involved. So I guess just depriving something of air is technically fermenting it. We talked about wine. First, we talked about what's the cabbage, the Korean
Kimchi.
cabbage kimchi,
Yeah.
and that was in vinegar,
Yeah.
right? And, but I guess
Like pickling something.
pickling something, yeah, that's vinegar.
Yeah.
But anytime you just deprive something of air, you're technically fermenting it.
Interesting.
Like when you make booze in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moonshine.
Moonshine, don't bother me. No, that's not right.
Something
Shoe fly.
like that.
No, it's shoe fly.
Yeah.
You got it. Prodigy. Prodigy Communications Corporation was an online service from 1984 to 2001 that offered its subscribers access to a broad range of network services. It was one of the major internet service providers of the 90s, and the company claimed it was the first consumer online service.
Great
What
band,
happened to
too.
them?
Gone. They got bought out by somebody else, like CompuServe or something like that, and then they sort of just fell into the abyss.
The .com bubble.
The .com bubble. First one was Amazon.
Remember that?
They just sold books for a while. It's like, oh, I need a book. Let me dial Amazon.
I
up.
bought a book from Amazon early on.
When they were Amazon, before they were this Amazon.
They sold used medical literature.
Yeah.
And in med school, I bought one because the real book new was like $800, and Amazon it was like $210, and I ordered it. And I'm pretty convinced it came from Bezos's garage in San Francisco because the return label was San Francisco.
No shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the question is, did
What
it come
year was it?
Did it come the same day?
So that was 2004.
Yeah, it was an impressive service back then. Now it's just fucking blows my mind. I bought
And it was
light bulbs.
kind of difficult to use at the time. It wasn't like now you just click. Before it was like you had to work your way through it. Then there was an email. And emails weren't like ripping around. They were still kind of newish. Yeah.
Yeah, internet was sweet back then. That's back when things were cool. Beepers, all that good
Pagers.
shit. Pagers.
or beepers.
Yeah. I'm a beeper guy. You called it a pager? Did you have one?
I had one for a little bit.
Remember the clear ones where you could like see
Yeah.
the inside through
Yeah, it
the
was so
shell?
cool.
Yeah. You're like a drug dealer or just like you had a job? All
Your
right.
parents wanted to know where you were.
That's right. Where are you?
Yeah.
But then you had to find a payphone to call them back.
That's right.
Yeah, and you had to figure out what lie you're going to tell them because you're not at Bobby's house, clearly. If you're going to overconsume calories, is it better to overconsume one macro than another? Here's my example.
Yeah.
I'll get to my 7, 8 o'clock, dinner's done. My macro count is pretty much all set. My calorie count's all set, but I still want to eat. I'm not going to tell you that I'm hungry. Maybe I'm bored. Maybe I just like to, whatever. I want to eat more. I used to be a big cookie guy, but chocolate, but it's a high fat content. So instead I've been buying lately it's been the Brock's candy hearts with the Be Mine, You're So Cute thing on it, but because it's all carb, no fat. Is that better or worse than just eating whatever?
You'll certainly. All right. So if you think about it, there's the absolute amount of calories that you're gaining through a macro,
Yeah.
and then there's the net amount of calories that you're getting for each macro. I think we've talked before about the thermic effect of food, protein having the highest, carb having the second, and fat being like the third by far.
Yep.
And I should say protein has the highest thermic effect by far too. So the more calories that you're consuming from protein, the less net calories you have to worry about.
Okay.
then carbohydrates would be the second of that. So yes, you're eating more, and then
crap. Yep.
And then fat. And I would also say it's easiest to overeat on fat because it fills you up the least. So you're going to have the highest total amount of calories coming via fat, as well as the highest net effect of fat. So it costs you more to eat more fat.
So simple terms, if you're going to overeat a macro, put fat at the bottom of the list.
Correct.
Okay. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. But then it's also like, what are we doing? Like, what are we trying to do? Like, because sometimes when you have to like overeat on purpose, like if you're in a bulk or in a weight or massing stage, you almost want those calories to be easier to consume. And that's why you would look for more processed
fat concentrated
food.
stuff.
Yeah. It's just easier to get the calories in.
Let me put an avocado on my sandwich and I'll
Correct.
jump that number quickly.
Yep.
Is there a better time to consume certain macros?
Yeah, food or nutrition timing is a science of its own, but it is on a hierarchy of like how you should gauge where to implement timing. It's probably the third most important thing.
Okay.
Now, if you're a professional athlete and your performance and timing really does matter, nutrient timing then becomes more of a consideration that you should try to employ in your strategy.
Because it's performance based.
Correct.
Well, what about going to the gym? Should you like hammer down on protein before you get to the gym?
Or
carbs or fat?
It depends. Like, so if let's say you're an early morning guy compared to a late afternoon guy.
Yeah,
you probably want to figure out what works best. Now, like if you're getting up at 4 a.m. to go lift, it's really hard to get food in because then you're working out with a full stomach. So then
that sucks.
Is it better than just to eat that afterwards? You know what I mean? So
what's interesting to me, this just sparked a comment. Maintain your train of thought. This might distract your touch, but like you just mentioned food intake and everything for performance of an athlete. But I would work in hospitals and people would come in and be like, oh, last night we had a wonderful happy hour, a huge dinner. I didn't get to bed till really late, but I got a full day in the OR today. I'm going to be really tired.
Yeah.
Conceptually, that's the most fucked up thing I can think about. Like, you're about to cut somebody open and you're functioning at like 30% of your capacity and you already are kind of having a tough time tie your shoes because you're so uncoordinated because there's no barrier to entry in surgical world for technical skills. It's purely academic.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, well, that's how I feel. And you now put yourself into a severely bad state of performance. Like, if there's anybody on the planet who should be probably really hyper-focused on nutrition and everything, like pilots, doctors, nurses, like people that are really taking care of other people instantly direct. And I think it's a pretty good indication of how well and how serious you take your job as to how well you treat your body, because you will do a better job professionally in whatever profession you're in by treating your body in a good way.
If you watch like a professional sports game, you'll see guys, I think of golf, they'll like tee off and they grab a banana or they'll grab a bar as they're walking down the fairway. Are they trying to boost their energy? What are they doing when they're grabbing food? Because it's not like they're trying to keep track. Oh, I don't have enough protein today. Like seems like there's a deliberate reason for them doing it.
There's a couple reasons why athletes will consume food during, especially let's just take golf, because golf's a long, slow, like duration-based sport. So you want to make sure that you don't have energy crashes. Because when you experience an energy crash, it's already occurring, right? Like you're only sensing the energy crash, but there's been signs before. So like dehydration is something that is also tied to consumption, right? So like if you're dehydrated, your power production goes down, like let's say 5% in the first hour.
Okay.
You might not know you're dehydrated or hungry until like the symptoms are so overt.
Until you're 20%.
Like, until you're like hooking it left and like can't make a putt. So you want to maintain some like blood sugar stability so that you don't experience any of those things. So you want to be proactively doing those tasks before some kind of detrimental experience.
Well, then there's got to be some truth to that for regular people like you and I, right? Like to eat a granola bar halfway through your workday might
without a doubt
prevent you from crashing at 2:00 or keep you, on focus so you can cut somebody open.
Without
question. There's a reason especially the people that I've worked with in the past do consider themselves to be performance people, right? Like, so there's this athlete mindset. It's like like, I mean, Marco's a great example. Like when we started working together, correct me if I'm wrong, how good were your numbers that year in surgery compared to your output went
changed
through
drastically.
The roof.
Right.
So like, but he also was a high level athlete, a Division I athlete, a pro athlete.
Yep.
So he just never really took that mindset into his work profession, not to speak on your behalf.
No, that's exactly
But once you started to treat your body as a professional, all of a sudden your professional output went up.
Way better.
You know what I mean? So there are different things that we can employ to maximize your returns.
My output got so good that I finally had the courage to fucking leave the hospital.
Yeah.
That's how good it got. Because I was sick of actually being held down by slow work environment.
So I mean, the finding purpose is not an anomaly as you go down the health odyssey. Like when you start to feel better about yourself and eat better and sleep better, you do find some clarity in your life, or you find some direction. You notice what you're good at or what you enjoy, or on the opposite side, what you don't like or what's hindering you or what a limiting factor in your life is. And you try to clear the path because, I don't know, you feel evidence of success. Like you just feel better about yourself. And when you feel better about yourself, you feel better about the people you're with. I mean, there is like this causal tidal effect that comes along with it.
And to come full circle on that conversation back to the beginning, where it's like, do you have clients where as a couple, it's easier to convince them to do certain things? You know, I just had an experience with a guy who's sitting in my office, outwardly admitting emotionally how drinking is a really big hindrance to his life. And he's like, I really got to slow down. I really got to slow down. And I kept saying, you can do it. You can do it. And he's like, yeah, I just got to convince my wife. So finally I got to the point maybe it was the wrong approach, but at the end of it, I was like, if she's the problem, then you need to just say to her, you're the problem, right? Like if her drinking is making you drink and it's holding you back, which is part of this process, that might be the thing that I'm not saying let go of it, but work with it to try to make it better.
They certainly tell you when you're about to leave rehab, like if you're going back to a household where there's active use, like don't go back there because your rate of recidivism is over 90%.
Yeah.
So drinking is an interesting topic. So I recently, a couple weeks ago, just celebrated 10 years of sobriety.
That's awesome.
Congrats.
Thank you. And the first thing I did is I wanted to text my brother because my brother had been like, for everything that my relationship with my middle brother is, like, no matter what, like if I was in rehab, just gotten out, snuck out of rehab, kicked out of my parents' house, lost all my money, whatever it was, I could go to my brother's house and he would take care of me.
Yeah.
So I'm reflecting on all of this as I'm texting my brother to say thank you, like we did this together. I was thinking about the relationship between what I'm doing now outside of sobriety, like becoming better and healthier and all that in my life. And there's some correlation between, like there's a lot of, I don't want quitting involved with getting healthy, right? You got to quit the junk food. You got to quit smoking. You got to quit staying up late. Like you must run into the challenges like you just mentioned, Doc, and Mike. I'm sure people come to your office and say the same thing. It's like, well, I got to give all this up in order to gain this. How do you navigate that journey with people?
Well, and the other interesting thing to add on, and Mike can answer how you navigate that better probably than me, but it's like, a lot of people out loud say to me, well, like, I still want to have fun.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting, really perverse way of presenting that drinking is the only way they can have fun. But yeah, how do you navigate that?
There is truth though. So we hear that a lot in AA too. It's like, well, I want to have a drink with my kid at their wedding. It's like, all right, but hang in there. And I bet you when your kid gets married, you're not even going to think about that drink.
Right.
Mike?
I think part of this underscores like what really matters. And then really making sure that is meaningful to you, right? And we use a lot of sport analogies because that's where I come from, the sport world. So if you were to play the Super Bowl this week, what's your life going to look like? Are you going to go out drinking? Are you going to like eat shitty food? Are you going to get good rest? It's like, why don't we have that same mindset going into your surgery tomorrow?
Yeah.
Why, or being the best dad or whatever it is. So
God,
performance is.
Why does it take the Super Bowl to want to do better? Yeah.
Because like your life fucking matters. Like, and if it doesn't, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. What are you
if
here
it
for in
doesn't
the first
matter
place?
enough for you to like elevate yourself and want to be better and like put all your stock into creating, as cliche as it sounds, the best version of you, because that greatly impacts your environment and it's reciprocated.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can inspire others to do other things.
It does. Yeah. It's infectious.
And how much do you value your customer in whatever profession you're doing that you're showing up half-ass?
Yeah. Good point.
Right? Like,
yeah, we owe it to other people, maybe.
Especially surgery is one of the things I can reason with because I was in it. Like, that's their biggest day in their life so far. You know what I mean? Like, they're nervous, they're showing up, they're expecting you to give
You're talking
them
about the patient.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're cutting 30 people open a day, but I'm only going in once in 50 years.
Yeah, so to you, it's the biggest hour of your life. So for me to like nonchalantly just be like, fuck it, I'm up till midnight boozing. I was out on like that's kind of a disrespectful move to everybody around you.
No doubt.
Did you guys watch the Michael Jordan
The Last Dance?
Whatever it is?
Of course.
I think the thing that really stuck with me is like they asked like why he tried to play every freaking game and he did it like 8 years.
Yeah.
He's a
whatever
fucking beast, dude.
And he said it's because when I go and play in, wherever, Detroit or Miami, there's going to be a dad that worked overtime to bring his kid to the game.
Yeah.
And that's the only time that kid's going to see me play. And don't get me wrong, he was nuts. But he created a mental framework which made him elevate even if he was hurt, even if he was sick. He's like, I'm going to bring my best.
Yeah.
And I want that in my life. I want every day to matter like that.
I'm getting all fired up thinking about it.
But you should be fired up.
Doubt.
We're fucking alive.
Hell
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think just to not even approach it that way is such a waste.
Every day's the fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah, it should be.
Time to put the women and children in bed and go looking for dinner. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, it's great flick.
Women's topic.
Yeah. How important is how we breathe?
I mean, I'm not a doctor, but breathing is
pretty crucial.
I don't know what the research says.
I know you got to do it, but so I'll give you an example.
Yeah,
so
please.
I'm trying to get better or go up on a lot of my weights. And so I've been reading and listening to podcasts about not just relative to like weightlifting, but just breathing in general, meditation, how it relates to better health. And we had mentioned on this podcast before that I forget what you get more of when you breathe through your nose, but there's definitely a benefit through breathing through your nose.
Yep.
And then as I'm now doing a bench press or whatever, an incline, doesn't matter, I'm trying to breathe in through my nose as I'm exerting and then breathe out as I'm coming back down. Is that the right thing to do? Is there a correct rhythm to breathing during exercise?
Yeah, so essentially every exhale or an exhale should happen at the exertion.
Okay.
So like if you ever took martial arts, there's something called like a key up. Like a hiya, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Which happens at the exertion. You did it very well.
Thank you.
You did it at the exertion of the movement, right?
So I never did martial arts, but now I'm picturing Serena
you were to
Williams
throw
hit
a
a tennis
punch.
ball.
Right.
And she goes, "Hua!"
Yeah, exactly right. You
Okay.
hear it in tennis. You hear it in boxing. When
Monica
they hear,
Seles was the originator.
Right. I think you said that. Yeah. Was she hot?
Not ugly. She
Okay.
got stabbed a bunch of times.
Fact
that's
check.
right.
Yeah. Poor lady.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. People in their nines.
Yeah. So in at the exertion should be the exhale.
But why? Is it a mental thing, or is it actually does your body get something from that?
Well, 'cause essentially your inhale should create intra-abdominal pressure, which creates stability, so that like when
allows you to keep going.
yeah,
So
well, it creates more efficiency.
Okay.
Because you have a more stable base. So think about and breathing is essentially going to be based on how you're performing the exercise and what's required of you. So if you're doing multiple reps, you're not going to be breathing in conjunction with the multiple reps for the most part. You want to try to create that stability and sustain that stability until you need to exhale.
Am I an anomaly to say that during specific core and ab exercises, I feel like I'm holding my breath?
No, that's
not
fine.
intentionally, but like I feel like I'm always like
Well,
out of breath.
I think construction is a good analogy too. Like somebody asked, why does your core and legs and everything matter in a bench press, right?
Yeah.
But technically, if you're laying on your back and your arm is attached to the bar,
Yeah.
if you were to build a skyscraper with beautiful beams, solid as a rock, but you put it on a pile of Jello, it's gonna fall down. So, like, if you have better core strength, leg strength, abdominal tension, back, lower back, and on the inside, and you build up that pressure, that arm has something really stable to brace against. Much easier to push that bar up.
So I was always anti-legs just because I felt it was a waste of time, and I loathe leg exercises. But one of my friends was like, "Well, you can't build a statue on twigs. Like, if you want to get bigger on the upper body, you got to get bigger on the lower body."
They actually just attributed quad
Okay.
muscle mass
Yeah.
as a direct correlate to longevity. Like
Of life.
your quad itself. Like
Interesting.
people with really weak quads
Die.
die before people with really strong quads. Relative to your size, not like everybody else has giant ones.
Are there markers of good sleep and bad sleep in everyday living?
Yeah, tons.
Okay.
I mean, the first one that I think of is just your resting heart rate, which is tied to your autonomic nervous system. So if your resting heart rate is, most people say anything above 60 resting heart rate is you're now more sympathetically driven.
Okay.
So
Sympathetic is sleepy.
that's the fight or flight.
Oh, that's the fight. I'm
so
opposite. Okay.
so that is kind of makes sense now. Like, so if you were in a significant rest and digest period, and you're on the fight and flight spectrum,
yeah.
something was
Wrong.
amiss.
Yeah.
So like if your resting heart rate's above 60 when you wake up in the morning, maybe you didn't get great sleep.
So my wife just started the Whoop,
Yeah.
which is similar to what you guys do with the Ring, and we were just talking about this yesterday. She's like, God, my sleep last night is telling me that I was at everything was spiking, and we were trying to figure out like, are people having nightmares? Are they? What's going on? If you're asleep, right? And like she didn't recall waking up throughout the night. If you're asleep, but your resting heart rate is high, or your your sympathetic is heightened, that's a symptom of bad sleep, right? What's going on in your brain or in your body? Is something happening to you? And how do you work on that? Like, how do you avoid that symptom? Like, how do you get better sleep? If like, or some people just naturally bad
A quick
sleepers?
note on tech, because I've dealt with a lot of people that try to, use technology.
Yeah.
Is don't use it right away. Like, keep tracking, but have a better understanding of subjectively. Like, before you even start looking at objective data, like, have your own subjective well-being kind of frame. Like, so
I'll create a baseline, maybe.
correct.
Okay.
So that you're not letting numbers dictate how you feel. No different than just getting on a scale and being like, I'm fat, I'm skinny, I'm whatever. So because the numbers should be more and more a back-end confirmation of what you are evaluating as your normal. And then these things kind of coalesce over time. So one of the things that could be is like she's literally not getting enough sleep. And I think it's been proven women need more sleep than men.
Okay.
So like, let's say you guys are getting 6.5 hours of sleep and you feel great. And she's like, oh man, I still feel tired.
Yeah.
And the numbers continue to show that like, yeah, you're not getting deep sleep. You're not getting REM sleep. You're not getting restful sleep.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I would just think about. Like, can you create some kind of, Borg score of like, am I rested?
Borg score?
Borg score is like 1 to 5, 1 to 10.
Okay.
Kind of some, however you're evaluating that thing.
Okay.
So if you're not
Is that
feeling,
the standard for like sleep rubric?
it could be anything.
Okay.
A Borg
Bjorn
score
Borg, was that a guy?
Tennis player.
Yeah.
Full circle. Nice job.
Nice red hair.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
could be.
Back check, Marcus.
Yes.
Oh, maybe
You know,
blonde.
Mike, come on, dude. You fucked him up.
I don't know.
I was gonna ask. In addition to that, if somebody is getting bad sleep, even if they've created themselves a baseline and they've had the Whoop or the Aura for 30 days, 60 days,
Yeah.
whatever it is, like, all right, now I want to start looking at my data. Holy shit, it looks like I'm not getting good sleep. How does a person, either through nutrition, exercise, or is it better to go with medication intervention to create better sleep? And is medicated sleep as beneficial as natural sleep?
I also think sleep is very environmentally driven because the one truly proven entity that you can kind of lever on and make moves on to get your sleep better is BCT, like cognitive therapy, behavioral therapy.
So you're saying outside stressors beyond what we're talking about
Yeah, and
here.
we as a society always look at effort during the awake cycle as how much you're putting into something. Meaning
Guilty.
like,
Yep,
I
that's
work
me.
for 20 hours a day.
Yeah, I get validation through it.
Yeah,
I'm
but
like,
you're
well,
like-
I've been up for 16 hours
Yeah.
working my ass off.
So
Yeah.
our go mode and awake time is what's appreciated.
Yeah.
What we forget is all of our building, even in the workout and in environment and all of it, is done when you are recovering.
Yeah.
And we don't really look at recovery as a good thing. And here's why, I believe. The way society is built is to have like an administration have people working for it, right? So if you look at the microcosm, it's like your body, how do you have it work for you? In a business world, it's as the boss, how do you have more people work for you? If you can pay minimal to 1,000 people to work at a 50% output, but you have 1,000 people doing stuff and you can sleep and recover, that's great. it's much harder to pay people for non-working hours recovery to get them to work at 100% because it's hard to see that as an appreciable outcome on a data sheet. But we really need to start refocusing. And interestingly, Sweden, I believe it's Sweden, just invoked a whole thing in terms of overall recovery too, for like paternal leave, for rest when they have kids, and this whole society based on like family structure and adjusting it so that your recovery phase, your sleep, your relaxation is as much as your output. And they've shown really significant improvements in societal outcomes of lots of different measures. So I think as a human, individually, if you want to focus on something, your recovery phase is a big deal. And even in specifically exercise world, like when you lift, you're not building muscle. You're irritating your muscle to the point where that when you relax and feed it, it will build. And the same on our work cycle, the same on our awake cycle. So like the biggest thing, like, you know, is environmental things. We blame our kids. Oh, they keep us up. We can't sleep. We blame work. Oh, it keeps us up. We can't sleep. But we really, I think, need to get better at compartmentalizing the recovery phase. And I don't know the answer truly because it's very, very individualistic. Like, can you put your kid to bed at 8 so that you can then rest from 9 to 5? I don't know.
Sure.
But we really need to try harder at it.
There's a hint there of what I was going to say next, which was there's a piece, I'll speak for myself, of almost like guilt if I sleep too much or if I'm tired. And I won't go take a nap in the middle of the day, even though my body might be telling me to. And I think, like, I don't know if it's an American thing or if it's just human condition to not sleep enough because you're supposed to be working. You're supposed to be producing. You're supposed to go to bed at 9 and get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, that's my dad. Like, what's the maxim? Early risers get the worm, right? Like, people are trained to be up and producing, and it's difficult to then step back and then accept that, well, maybe you're up for 14 hours, but if you slept for 3 more and worked for 12, you'd get as much, if not more, production out of the time that you're awake.
Without a doubt.
But that's an interesting topic too. So we talk about getting up early, right? Yeah. I am not shy to say I go to bed early.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I have no pride in staying up to 10:30.
But people do.
You know,
right?
I'm saying for myself. So
yeah.
I don't ever want any listener to think, oh, he's some superhuman. Like, he stays up late, works all day till midnight, and then gets up at 4. No.
Nobody thinks that.
I literally lay down and go to bed at 8:30.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not burning the whatever
candle
on both ends.
Yeah.
Like, I go to bed so that I can get up at 4:30. And if I don't go to bed by 8:30, I don't get up at 4:30.
Yeah,
I can't.
I know that because you didn't respond to me the other night because it was like 8:15. Yeah. Like, what the fuck? I was like, Mike's not going to the gym. Are you going?
I was sleeping.
Yeah, it fucked me up, dude. GLP-1s. I saw a commercial for what I always thought was like a male enhancement drug. And they all were advertising that you can go online and get GLP-1s through the internet. Couple of questions. So, 1, what does GLP-1 stand for? And 2, does that mean that the monitoring process is more restrictive on testosterone than it is on weight loss drugs?
Yes.
So that seems crazy to me.
Yeah, the whole world of medicine is very crazy. So
what's GLP-1?
So GLP-1 is glucagon-like peptide. So it stimulates. It's a hormonal stimulator of your body to do a bunch of different things.
Is it that benign of a drug that you can just order it online and it won't hurt you?
So it won't really hurt you.
Can you abuse
per
it?
se? Yeah, and you can use it without knowing how to use it the right way.
Okay.
I think it's almost like our new version of like amphetamine cough medicine, which seems benign, but then people started abusing it, and then kind of everything.
Allergy medicine.
Yeah, that people just don't know how to use the right way. Even to the point where, like, exercise, if you don't know how to do it the right way, can be detrimental.
Yeah.
And then there's multiple types of GLP-1s. Like, the Ozempics are GLP-1s by themselves. The tirzepatides of the world are GLP-1s and GIP, which do also gastric inhibitory things as well.
When you say that, you're saying one is more specified and does one thing.
Yeah, one hits 2 targets, one hits 1.
Okay.
Now, here's my take on the HIMSS thing. It's an easy fucking volume play to make money, right? And I've been on the other end of those. I won't use names, but I interviewed with a company that does a lot of online doctoring. Sure. And at the end of the interview, they're like, so you want to sign up? And it seemed like a great deal. And yes, I could have made $80 every 10 minutes seeing people across the country every 10 minutes. but I didn't. That's not real doctoring to me, and I didn't want to be prescribing meds through that version of it. But it's a really easy volume play. So now you can just have people sign up, get their GLP-1s. They're probably not going to follow up with you. They're just going to buy that one off. And if you hit thousands of targets a day and build no relationships, who cares? You're selling high volume.
Well, I guess that's the way you view doctoring, right?
It's a volume
why
play.
Is weight loss doctoring? It's more health management at that point.
Well, they've turned it into doctoring because there's huge amounts of advantageous gains you can get through medically used weight loss. So at our gym,
for obese people, but what about the people that are just like, I want to lose 5 pounds. I know we said this last episode, but I was thinking about some people that I know, and they're not overweight people, but they want to go on them to get skinnier.
Yeah, now if you can do it the wrong way.
Can you take just a little bit of GLP-1 and then you'll only lose a little bit of weight?
Sure.
All right, so fuck
no,
it.
it's not right.
What's
but if
wrong with that?
Well, because say
if there's no adverse effect to this drug.
No, but there is.
Like, you're not going to withdraw like when you shoot dope, right?
You can have. So if you do not do the right lifestyle adjustments, if you do not learn how to eat well, if you do not exercise, if you do not maintain a good sleep pattern, if you do not maintain dietary intake under control.
All right, but Hims isn't offering of co-listing with MyFitnessPal at the same time, right?
How about this?
Yeah.
I could go eat McDonald's every day.
Yeah.
If I eat it in ration and I exercise, I probably won't gain weight because I use the macros to their ability.
Okay.
But not everyone can do that.
It's true.
So Hims is like this thing where and then all of a sudden those people see 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound. They're not going to stop.
Yeah.
Who knows what their pancreas is doing at the time with insulin production? It's not being monitored. Who knows how they're responding? If their muscle mass is completely going down and they're overstimulating their pancreas with this flood of insulin all the time, they're going to become insulin insensitive, and then on the back end, you're going to have severe diabetics because now there's a lot of bad consequences that can come out of this on the back end.
Well, Mike, at what point does weight loss affect your musculature? Like, fat is the first thing to go, right? When you start to lose weight, do you lose fat first?
Typically.
Okay, and then eventually, if there's not enough fat for the body to lose, it will attack your muscles. Am I understanding that correctly?
If there's not enough nutrition support, as well as like the type of training you're utilizing, your muscle will be wasted.
Yeah.
So then, if you go on a GLP-1, I know we're talking about you still got to maintain the right kind of macro count. You need to pay attention to what you're eating or eating at all, since it restricts your diet. Should your exercise routine also go up? So, I mean, people are using these. We want to make sure they're doing it to the best, to get in most efficacious way.
Not to plug what we do, but like we try to make these things work in concert. So like if you're going to go on it and it's the right move for you, what does your nutrition look like? What does your training look like? What does your recovery look like, so that we can minimize any downside that will be incurred based on like your unique features.
Yeah.
So if you're losing 100 pounds compared to you want to lose 25 pounds,
right.
Or you're a male or female, and there's other things that we have to consider with age and medical history. Geez, we have to put all this stuff together so that you can actually optimize your experience. And again, it's all risk mitigation here.
Are GLP-1s as either effective or implemented the same strategically for men and women? Is it just weight-based?
Yeah, kind of. I have a couple different measures. So I use them a lot with really nasty carbohydrate profiles. And I've had really good success with, I'm going to say, avoiding people from getting diabetes.
When you say a nasty carbohydrate,
like people that don't know that they're about to become a diabetic.
Okay.
Because
your sugar's too high.
Yeah, and the world of medicine has this like gray zone, pre-diabetes. Like if you're a pre-diabetic, you're a diabetic in my mind.
I think Mike said at one point, aren't we all pre-diabetic?
Yeah, you're just waiting to become a diabetic if you don't do the right thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people with these markers that are through the roof that their regular doctor's just like, oh yeah, no problem. Just eat less.
Yeah.
But like if you're eating a profile that's 70% carbohydrates, 20% protein, and then 10% fat, and you just eat less but in that same ratio, you're still going to be a fucking diabetic. Like whatever. I can't get down that philosophy.
Sure.
But a lot of these people come in with fasting glucoses that are really high, really low 1,500 glucosols, which means their carbohydrate day-to-day intake is really high. And then a fasting insulin that's already elevated. Right? So if we do the exercise, we do the dietary adjustment, and we use a little bit of a GLP-1 with a GIP, meaning we reduce their actual desire to eat, which I think plays a huge role in boredom eating. What was this saying? Physiologic versus
psychologic.
Yeah, so they're psychologic eating.
Yeah.
It is a lot less food noise.
Yeah, food noise. That's right.
And other things that they would consider addiction based.
Yeah.
Or
So if we
vices.
can-
That's a good term. That's me.
Yeah, so if we
It's
can
just
like
I'm just not doing anything. All of a sudden, the idea of eating pops into my head.
so if we can like
Yeah.
break
It's like-
that cycle, we have a way better back end result on that biopsychosocial change that's to be made on the offloading.
Yeah.
And that food noise is half the battle.
Yeah,
with
it's huge.
most of these people.
Yeah, I mean that goes back to what I was saying before. Like I'm gonna eat at this point in my life. I know I'm gonna eat something at 7:30 at night, and so
I like try everything I prescribe. Right, so I've tried tirzepatide.
Okay.
and I took a shot, and it was insane the food noise reduction. Like
Really?
I tested myself hard because after
Food indifference.
2 days I was like kind of tired, and then I realized I didn't eat. Like I had stopped. I just forgot to eat because I didn't even think about it.
it's
And then I was
interesting
like,
they can't
"Holy
do this
shit!"
for
And then I was
drugs
like,
and alcohol.
And then I was like, "I got to test myself." And I
think
went.
you can.
And my big sucker is French fries and the smell like fast food. Like if I smell that, I want to eat
I'm
something.
in. Yeah.
So I went to a McDonald's and I walked in, and I hadn't eaten in a couple hours, and I actually didn't even like it. Didn't register to me that I should buy something.
Wow.
And I just walked out.
That feels dangerous, man. That
Well,
given to the
super
wrong
powerful.
person. Yeah,
Like,
I
these
mean,
things are crazy.
yeah.
and then the whole thing with it is this whole.
Then you can just buy it online.
Buy it online.
Yeah, and the whole environment of how we do it is I tell people, I am willing to do this with you. That's fine. But you have to force feed yourself your protein and your carbohydrates and your water. Because, like, if you don't, now we're doing not the right thing.
So are you checking labs more frequently for people that are on GLP-1s?
No, I'm checking in with them more, but every 3 months, we're
Okay.
still checking labs.
Okay.
More frequent than that would be like a very difficult ask of the client. I'm willing to do it, but that's a hard time.
There's also things that you can be monitoring, like just like nutrition intake, hydration,
Yeah, yeah.
status.
Just watching their macro count and how much
100%.
you're drinking, how
Their-
much you're
the
eating, how
scale
much you're
weight.
exercising.
Like,
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you lose a crazy amount, because most of the studies on GLP-1s have shown that like if they're not doing behavioral modification, the majority of the weight they're losing is muscle.
Yeah.
Which
Really?
is, it puts them in such
you
a
just
bad
don't eat.
position. So Marco's talking about offboarding. It's like, that means like when we take the medications away, what happens to you?
Yeah.
You're in a terrible spot.
Wow.
Terrible spot. You're in a worse spot now than when you were before the medication.
Yeah, and then after a time frame, they've just gone from fat to skinny fat, which isn't our goal, right? Our
That's
goal is
really no better.
whether you're fat or just overweight, whatever, is to change your composition. That's the whole goal of
The
what-
muscle mass is the holy grail.
That's
like,
it.
You can't lose that.
Right.
Peter Yarrow from Peter, Paul, and Mary died.
Oh,
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Rest in peace, brother.
damn it.
What was name me a song?
All my bags are packed. I'm ready to go.
Oh yeah,
Or Puff the Magic
Oh,
Dragon.
Puff the Magic Dragon.
Yeah, okay. So
Jeff Howie used to
it
love
was
that
on
song.
it was on the back. Jennings watched the news, whatever. I see the clip, and I'm like, these Peter, Paul, and Mary back in the day, right, 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
were fucking rock stars, dude.
Yeah.
But they're like folk singers with like, and these have these huge mustaches, and they're not like what we would in today's contemporary age say are like sexy, attractive people. So I did a deep dive on sex symbols throughout the decades.
Ooh.
Tell me if you're in or out.
I'm in.
Marilyn Monroe,
In.
Elvis Presley,
In.
Out.
Elizabeth Taylor,
In.
Out.
James Dean.
Yeah, I like that look. In.
In.
You don't know who he is?
Yeah, yeah.
Right without a couch.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Leg up
do
on
I
the wall.
believe or am I attracted?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm attracted.
No, I mean like leg up on the wall, cigarette, leather jacket.
Yeah, dude,
black
rebel
bla-
without a cause, driving a
decapitated.
fucking motorcycle.
He's
yeah.
a dude.
Yeah, he's a dude.
And honestly, like kind of a bad dude, a little bit bad in like look, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind my
Hanging out with
daughter
him.
like meeting a dude like that.
No doubt. Raquel Welch.
In.
Who is? I don't even know who that is.
She's from the, I guess she's 70s, 80s.
60s, maybe?
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess I'm out.
Paul Newman.
Oh,
Out.
in.
Pamela
Paul
Anderson.
Newman?
You're out on Paul Newman? What are you,
He's the guy that made the
anti-American, bro?
salad dressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he does it for charity.
All right, I'm
Luke?
in.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm
Lived in
in.
Connecticut?
All right, I'm in.
Butch the Sundance Kid, bro.
I'm in.
Pamela Anderson.
In.
In.
Marlon Brando.
Out.
Out.
Mike, you're going to like this one. Rita Hayworth.
Rita
Fuck is
in.
Rita
Yeah.
Hayworth?
Shawshank Redemption.
Exactly. That's the
Oh,
only
out.
reason I know who she was. Harrison Ford.
In.
Suzanne Summers.
In.
Thigh Master.
Yeah. Brad Pitt.
In.
Jennifer Lopez.
Out.
Hard
out.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not into her.
J-Lo.
Fucking can't
My
stand
dad would be
it.
so disappointed.
I've never
in you guys.
liked her, and I just
Yeah, I was
everything
never into
about
her.
her bothers me. Jenny from the fucking block.
That's right, babe.
Go back to the block.
George Clooney.
In.
Cindy Crawford.
In.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
I met him.
Out.
Good dude.
Solid dude.
Love that. Exercise guy.
Yeah, that's where I met him.
Really?
The gym.
And he's like, him and Lance and McConaughey were like, let's ride bikes together.
I like McConaughey.
Yeah. McConaughey. In.
Halle Berry. I'm in on McConaughey too, dude.
In.
Have you ever seen a McConaughey speech when he like gets an award?
Yeah.
He's fucking legit, bro.
Yeah, he's well
Yeah.
thought out.
Texas dude.
Yeah, Texas guy.
Well thought
UT.
out.
Did I say Halle Berry?
Yeah.
In.
Angelina Jolie.
In.
Creepy.
I mean,
Yeah,
in on the
creepy
look and the whole thing, but
Creepy
her social situation.
No. This is just
Yeah,
sex
she's
symbol.
nuts.
Just a sex
Yeah,
symbol.
in.
Yeah, okay. Sharon Stone.
In.
And Basic Instinct.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
we
Me and
grew
Mike
up on
watched
that.
that one
The
scene
scene where she opens her
1,000
legs,
times.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I saw it.
Did you see that?
I saw it.
Rewind.
I think
Pause.
we- Stop.
Do it again.
Fuck it.
I do believe we tricked the counter guy at the bodega into us getting the VHS out the door.
Yeah,
remember?
in like
in Brantford.
93.
And he would always flip his coins in the air. And I think as he flipped the coin, do you remember that guy?
Yeah.
Hold on, like heads or tails, you could take the porn?
No, like if you handed him change, he would like flip it in the air and do like a trick with it.
Okay.
And it was this old bodega, but in the back had a movie section,
Yeah.
like 8x8.
Okay.
So like we got him
Adult
with,
movies or all movies?
all movies, but
Okay.
we took Basic Instinct.
Yeah. Rated R.
He didn't know if we were 18 or not. We like handed him change,
We were, like,
distracted
14.
him. He
Yeah.
started like flipping the change. Then we like,
How much are these Cheetos? Go.
yeah.
Jessica Alba.
In hard in.
Julia Roberts.
Out. I'm not in on her.
Pretty
I
woman,
just
Mike.
watched Pretty Woman the other night. And
She's a pretty lady.
Yeah, she is.
So t-shirts hit the Instagram. Marcus, put that poll out, dude. I want to know if grunting's a turn on or turn off. Till next time.
Adios.
later.